wish to visit yourself. You run, plan, react, execute, break again. What you need is to learn to build a place within yourself where not even chaos is allowed to enter. This video is not just another piece of content to motivate you. It is a ritual of reconstruction, applied stoic virtues, and most importantly, silence. A silence that heals, that reorganizes, that reveals. You will realize that your strength was never in control. It resides in the center. And not run away, to rebuild with awareness everything that haste destroyed. And if this has already touched you in some way, write in the comments now. My temple begins in silence. This phrase is not just a marker, it's a key. It crumbles. There are moments when the world outside seems to collapse like a house of cards. Certainties slip through your fingers, plans dissolve like mist in the sun, and what once seemed solid reveals its fragility. It is noisy, full of demands, pressures, opinions and fears, but it was never under your control. What they told you was security. The job, the relationship, the routine was just a wall of sand. But in that nakedness of loss, the chance for truth is also born. What shook you wasn't what happened, but your identification with it. You were not the relationship, the salary, the status. You are the one who observes it all. And that observing part, when accessed, does not crumble. In silence amidst the rubble. Most people try to rebuild immediately, as if sweeping pain under the rug of haste. But what isn't felt remains latent. The external collapse is a brutal invitation to contemplation. There is wisdom in pausing. There is growth in facing pain head-on. Perhaps life is shouting with love disguised as tragedy. You've lost yourself too much out there. Come back. And coming back in this context isn't retreating. It's diving in, going to the most intimate place, the one no one touches, where you find yourself whole. The greatest discoveries don't arise in comfort. They are born when we're forced to retreat inward. External crisis can be the internal refinement you most needed, even if you don't see it now. There's something almost sacred in the vulnerability that arises when everything goes wrong. But the one that whispers, not the one that dominates the world, but the one that organizes the inner chaos. And that strength, my friend, it cannot be bought, taught, or borrowed. It is built. While most fight to appear strong, the truly strong allow themselves to break, to be reborn. That doesn't depend on any of that to exist. It's turning pain into a portal, fear into a teacher, the fall into a beginning. Everything the world takes from you can be rebuilt, more aware, more whole, because now you know what matters most cannot be seen. Stoicism doesn't promise a world without tragedies. It only prepares you to face them without losing peace. Not in what happens, that mental organization is more important than your schedule's organization, that a heart in silence is worth more than 1,000 strategies, and that the true victory is not losing yourself, even when everything around you invites despair. When the external collapses, the question that echoes is, what remained standing? And if the answer is, I remained, then you haven't just survived, you've awakened. It can take days, months, years. It doesn't matter. What matters is the path. It's the clarity that emerges after the shakeup. It's the decision to build an inner world that doesn't depend on the instability of the external world. That is the freedom no school teaches. The one that comes from presence, from a serene gaze, from quiet faith in yourself, even without external guarantees. Why trying to master the world weakens. You, the human mind, has a subtle and dangerous habit. It wants to control everything. It wants to predict what others will say, avoid the unexpected, manipulate fate. Emotional frauds is revealed. Control was just an idea. It was never real. The desire to control stems from fear, fear of being hurt, of losing, of not being enough, and fear, when it becomes your compass, leads to the abyss. World, the more you lose control of yourself. Stoicism doesn't condemn organization. It teaches the difference between order and obsession, between discipline and rigidity. Here begins to redefine itself, not as a result, but as presence, as self-control amidst chaos. The curious thing is that the more you try to master the world out there, the more you neglect the world within. Every attempt at manipulation. It will derail your plans on purpose, just so you learn to let go. Letting go isn't giving up, it's trusting. It's understanding that freedom lies in flowing, not in holding on. Here lies one of the greatest human contradictions. True power isn't in controlling, but in self-control. While the world outside stirs, the wise one breathes. Switch to, what can I control in myself in the face of this? It seems subtle, but this shift changes everything. It returns to you the real power, the one within your reach. Second part. Yes, throw away what you can't control. Visually, this gesture tells your mind, I know what's mine, and I let go of what isn't. Over time, this ritual becomes a habit, and habits build who we are. Harmony between effort and surrender, between action and acceptance. The wisdom of the great masters lies not in rigidity, but in flexibility. Emotional control at this point becomes a bridge from the ability to adapt without losing yourself. And when you let go of the desire to control, something surprising happens. The world doesn't become chaos. It reorganizes. But to access this inner freedom, you must cross another portal, the one of silence. Solves anything, explaining, arguing, trying to convince, it all feels empty. It's in that instant, between exhaustion and lucidity, that the invitation reveals itself. Be silent. Finds this proposal strange. It wants to speak, defend itself, give opinions, justify itself. But silence demands a rare courage, letting go of the ego, not reacting automatically. Precisely to this, not to respond to impulse with impulse, to attack with reply, to act, yes, but from awareness, not anger, from clarity, not fear. Silence is the practice that precedes Stoic virtue. First, because it reveals, it exposes the noises masked by speech. It lays bare what was hidden under haste. It's like turning off the party lights and suddenly seeing who stayed. What remains when no one is watching? Silence answers, guesses. It's like letting the murky water of a river rest. Slowly, the sediment settles and clarity rises. Silence is the necessary pause between chaos and wisdom. It's the firm ground before the right decision. Notice that many of your reactions were just echoes of open wounds. Silence lets you converse with those wounds, and little by little, they stop screaming, because they're finally being seen. Sacred to be wasted on small wars. This peace is like a garden. The more silence, the more flowers. And in this garden, a different presence is born. Of the time, real power lies in not reacting. Want a simple and effective exercise? Whenever you feel the urge to respond impulsively, stop. Take 3 deep breaths. Tell yourself, I choose silence now. So made of conscious pauses. And silence is the most strategic of them, because what you don't say also communicates. And often it communicates more. Itself, something that no longer reacts but observes, something that doesn't respond out of fear but chooses out of wisdom. And that something is the beginning of the true inner world. The ego builds tall castles, but hollow inside. They're beautiful structures to the eye, made of achievements, titles, praises, status, and social approval. They're homes built on emotional sand and loss, and the structure fractures. The ego lives in constant alertness, knowing it could be unmasked at any moment. And the subtlest part is that this castle is rarely perceived as a prison. It presents itself as protection, roots, height with depth, appearance with essence. And in this internal labyrinth, the soul hides, suffocated by the need to be something it's not. But life, in its silent wisdom, eventually tears down these walls. As part of the process, you can only rebuild what you allow to fall apart. And only those who dare to see their ego crumble without trying to save it can rebuild. An inner silence that no longer needs validation. Most fear the fall, but the wise soul celebrates it, because it knows that every ruin is a revelation, and every revelation is a liberation. It's in demolition that you see yourself truly. Any external planning, it's the kind of balance no course can teach, only the fall delivers. That personal value isn't in what you achieve, but in what you sustain when everything collapses, and that inner strength is built in the ruins. When pride falls, the soul rises. The ego wants to win. The soul wants to be. The ego craves recognition. The soul seeks coherence. And this shift changes everything. It brings lightness. It liberates. A space opens, and over time this space becomes ground. A firm ground. An internal ground. And on this new terrain, what's real is born. You start to relate without games, to work without needing to be the best. Speak, breathe. The ego wants speed, the soul wants depth. The ego wants performance, the soul wants presence. Stoicism points the way to this balance. Live with virtue, not vanity. Tide changes, relationships purify, choices align, success redefines itself, and life, which once seemed so hard to control, now flows with lightness. Because you're no longer trying to prove anything. Foundation, any new construction risks becoming another castle, just with new paint. 5. The rock of self-knowledge. Foundations that don't move. Imagine a house built on sand. It's fragile, relationships, plans, choices, and what was certainty turns to ruin. True strength doesn't lie in appearance. It lies in depth. Ground that doesn't crumble with others' criticism, a mistake made, or a love lost. This isn't found outside. It's built within. And it takes time. It requires silence. Emotions you don't even recognize. How can you organize a mind without knowing what's in it? Self-knowledge is the tool that reveals, names, and illuminates the dark corners. And only what's seen can be transformed. It's listening to yourself with maturity. It's saying, I feel this, I think that, I act this way, and from there, choosing with awareness, with lucidity, with emotional control, formulas, and all of that can help, but only after you know who's using those tools. Because the right tool in the wrong hands can be destructive, and the wrong hands here are the hands without self-awareness. Right, what hurts me frequently, then what strengthens me consistently, and finally, what defines me when everything is silent. These aren't questions to answer quickly, they're for digging slowly. Degrees, money, but still lack peace. And then comes the void, that feeling of, I have everything, but I am nothing. This happens when the construction is tall, but the foundation is shallow. Insisted so much on this point, know thyself. Because everything stems from it. The most beautiful part? Self-knowledge isn't a destination you reach. It's a road you walk. You won't wake up one day and say, done, now I know myself. No, discipline is born from this, from knowing what triggers you, from noticing what calms you, from understanding that some pains come from childhood, and certain behaviors are just survival patterns. And most importantly, you know you can change. Change without abandoning yourself. Change without losing your essence. Firm, it needs daily structure, constant practice, and that's where emotional discipline comes in, the architecture of the soul. Because the rock may be strong, but if not maintained, it begins to crack, oppresses or suffocates, but the one that liberates, that organizes from within, that knows the value of consistency and recognizes that firmness isn't rigidity, it's sustained presence over time. By fleeting emotions, to not lose yourself in the face of desire, fear, or anger. It's having an inner center of gravity, an axis. And this doesn't come overnight. It's not a gift. It's construction. Brick by brick, habit by habit, proportionately. This mapping is essential because you can only master what you know destabilizes you. And from there, awareness is born. And with it, the power to choose to pause. Keeping promises made to yourself. It all seems simple, but it's not. Because the ego wants comfort, the mind wants distraction, and the soul wants meaning. Discipline aligns the three. It doesn't eliminate chaos, because you honor what's inside. Discipline doesn't deny emotions, it just doesn't let them take charge. It's the rudder of the boat, the direction amidst the current. But in small daily victories, taking a cold shower when your body craves the bed, meditating even with a restless mind, staying silent when the impulse is to shout. The mind gives signals, and discipline in this case is attentive listening. It's care with excess. It's respect for your own limits. Stoic virtue isn't made of steel. It's made of gentle yet firm presence. Because those who know how things went can choose better how they will be. This kind of mental organization reflects in everything, in your tone of voice, decisions, relationships. This is felt even without words, and people begin to trust because they sense that in your presence there's structure, there's ground, there's a center. This discipline becomes a bridge to the growth mindset, where you don't need to feel like acting, you just need to decide and sustain that decision with love. And of course, there will be failures, moments when you lose your center, shout, react, slip beyond your limits. Not a rigid master, but a compassionate one, firm, human, present. And so, with emotional discipline firmly in place, the inner world begins to take shape over thoughts. Few people realize, but the mind is a house, and like any house, it has doors and windows, it has space, it has furniture, and most importantly, it has inhabitants, some welcoming, others chaotic, live on autopilot. Thoughts come and go, without filter, without awareness, without direction. And before they realize it, they're anxious, irritated, unmotivated, and don't even know why. Being paranoid, it's not about controlling every idea, but observing with presence. A negative thought arises. Observe. Question. Your mind as a room. If someone walked in right now, what would they find? Complaints, fears, toxic comparisons, or gratitude, focus, tranquility? Each thought is a voice. Sorting. When you choose not to feed the self-destructive thought, when you decide not to replay that offense mentally, when you stop imagining tragedies that never happened, and attitudes build destinies. If you let yourself be inhabited by ideas of defeat, scarcity, inadequacy, that's what the external world will reflect back. See, then choose one and ask, does this thought deserve to stay here? This intentional pause will over time teach you that your mind is a sacred territory. What we water, to nourish what elevates, to silence what destroys. And this isn't isolation, it's maturity. It's knowing that your energy is limited and not everything deserves your attention. You become the guardian of your inner temple. And no one else has access to that temple without your permission. Vigilance isn't an end, it's a path. It doesn't lead to an empty mind, but to a lucid one. Most curious part, the more you guard your thoughts, the less you need to fight them, because the light of awareness itself expels intruders. It dissolves the unnecessary. It clears space for clarity. And that material is called virtue. It's the invisible brick that sustains the inner world. And that's what we'll build on in the next step. It's no noise, no haste. There's only presence, only what is. While the world explodes outside, opinions, conflicts, expectations, demands, inside this room, peace reigns. It's a secret shelter, an intimate temple, refuge. Stoicism, with its dry and precise wisdom, whispers this direction. Go inward. Because there, in the center of the center, there's a point chaos cannot reach. A point of unshakable serenity. It sweeps away excesses, calms the mind, slows the pulse, brings the body back home. And when that happens, something shifts. Activity, this is revolutionary. Success in this space isn't measured in goals, but in peace, in long breaths, in expanded awareness. It's where emotional control strengthens without force. Your mind will scream. It will try to pull you back to the world, but persist. Silence, like a wounded child, needs time to trust. But once it trusts, it heals. And this healing doesn't come like magic. This room becomes portable. You carry it wherever you go. The growth mindset expands in this silence, because it's not just for acting, it's for listening, for noticing what needs to change. Protects. It prevents the world from consuming you. It keeps others' pain from becoming yours. It stops external expectations from dictating your rhythm. Those with inner silence don't respond with despair. It's what needs to be let go. What's excessive, what no longer serves. It's in silence that the deepest answers appear. That tough decisions mature. That intuition gains a voice. That's why silencing isn't absence. It's intelligence. What once hurt you now teaches you. What once destabilized you now strengthens you. And with this room well accessed, something changes even in your demeanor. And when this refuge becomes a habit, you discover something even more powerful. You don't need to react to everything anymore. That non-reaction is often the greatest act of strength. That's where the trap lies. Reacting is easy. Instinctive, impulsive, but not reacting. That's another thing. That requires strength. It requires structure. It requires deep emotional control. More than 1,000 words. Stoicism teaches that the wise person isn't the one who responds quickly. It's the one who chooses what's worth responding to. To accept injustices or turn your back on the world, it just means you don't act driven by anger, fear, or vanity. You act with stoic virtue, with deliberation, with discernment. Internally, this isn't mine. It's realizing the other is in their own chaos and choosing not to enter it. It's maintaining inner order when everything around invites confusion. In the face of the big. This emotional discipline is the foundation of a lighter life, more strategic, healthier, because every time you react less, you retain more energy for what truly matters. You dismantle the opponent's strategy, you break the cycle, you interrupt the repetition, and that's a silent revolution. It's inner mastery, it's personal transformation applied in practice. The growth mindset doesn't grow through imposition. It grows through selection. And that's freedom. But of course, you'll slip. You'll respond when you didn't want to. You'll get irritated. You'll lose yourself. And that's okay. The training is ongoing. Reaction also has another powerful effect. It reveals who you really are. When you react, you're on autopilot. But when you choose, you show yourself. You take a stand, you convey clarity, serenity, firmness, more strategic. You get less involved in dramas, fights, and noise, and more in projects, affections, and conscious choices. The world starts to change too, because now you're creating an inner world that doesn't depend on the external to exist. And that reality, created within, begins to manifest outside, in the invisible choices you make every day. This world is what you build within, and it's more real than any scene out there, because the external changes, but what you cultivate inside, if it's solid, remains. Both. Because what defines reality isn't what happens, but what happens in you in response to what happens. The mind, when well structured, reorganizes the world. When it's at peace, everything pacifies. Everything becomes lighter, more fluid, more possible. And this isn't magic. It's neuroscience. It's practical spirituality. It's personal transformation that starts in the invisible field but materializes in reality. Seed that needs darkness and silence before it blooms. Nothing grows from the outside in, always from the inside out. And the world responds to it. The entire universe seems to conspire in favor of those aligned with their own truth. And that's only done with presence, vigilance, emotional discipline, and stoic virtue. It's not a leap, it's a process, a path walked with attention. There, from what I'm feeling in here. This small, honest pause transforms the course of your day, and over time, transforms your life. The deepest personal transformation is the one that doesn't need to be announced. And presence and consistency. Success, in this context, changes its attire. It stops being accumulation and becomes lightness. It stops being prestige and becomes coherence. Marxism teaches that you don't govern the world, you govern yourself. And those who govern their inner world govern all others by consequence, not with imposition, but with presence, not with domination, but with clarity. It simply responds, and that changes everything, because now you don't live in reaction, you live in creation. You no longer absorb everything, you select. The guardians of the mind, phrases, practices, and rituals for inner protection. Your mind is fertile soil. Everything that falls on it, a word, a memory, an opinion, can take root. What enters, selecting with firmness what stays, and this choice is daily. It's not done once, it's repeated, like guarding the sacred with silent zeal. Stoicism is clear, the mind must be trained to an ideal version, but to keep you whole as you walk through a world that fragments. Let's start with words. It's self-programming, because thought is malleable, and if you don't educate it, it dominates you. Write your shield phrases. Hang them on the mirror. The silent vocabulary you use to treat yourself when no one else is listening. Mental organization also stems from small, almost invisible habits in motion, and this protects, structures, directs. It's not about rigidity, it's about coherence. Daily silence is one of the most powerful guardians in the world. It serves to reorder it from within. Another vital guardian, therapeutic writing. Don't write just to remember. Write to forget. Write to empty, to understand, to transform. And is also cultivation, what you read, hear, watch, what you share, comment on, follow. All this feeds your mind, and every fed mind either flourishes or sickens. So, vigilance isn't closing your eyes. Create rituals, simple, symbolic, yours. A tea before bed, a prayer upon waking, a specific song for tough days, a mindful shower to wash not just the body, but also the thoughts. Rituals create sacred territory. Bonds drain, invade, disorganize, and learning to step away isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. It's not about excluding others, but including yourself. Deep shield, because where there's gratitude, there's recognition of what's good, and where there's recognition of what's good, there's less space for noise. Start and end the day with 3 reasons for gratitude. More balance, choose with more presence. Stoic virtue strengthens, self-control solidifies, personal transformation deepens, without losing what you built in silence. Temple isn't fixed, it moves with you. It walks through the streets, enters tough conversations, crosses crowds, serene, present, but light. The world will remain challenging, people will still be difficult. Unpredictable situations will keep arising, and that's where it's tested whether the temple is real or just decoration. Into the world today, because you have a choice. You can go out armed, anxious, reactive, or you can go out whole, aware, structured, and that choice changes the day, changes the environment, changes the impact you make. On the floor, a firm thought, a conscious breath, a shield phrase repeated silently is enough to anchor your energy. That's enough to not lose what you've built with such care. You're already protected. Virtue keeps you on course when the path disappears, and it doesn't depend on ideal circumstances. It depends on posture, on mindset. Periphery, everything hits you. So, your practice is to return to the center. Throughout the day, whenever you notice you've lost your balance, stop. Go inward. Breathe. Touch awareness. And return. It's internal radar that says, hey, you're losing yourself. And the faster you heed this warning, the lighter life becomes. Not because it stops being hard, but because you stop abandoning yourself. What's coherent manifests over time, and those who need to understand will understand. Presence speaks. Time shows, results prove. It's where you choose to react or to sustain, to shout or to breathe, to repeat old patterns or to inaugurate new ways of being. Even amidst the crowd, that's conscious presence, that's emotional control, that's inner success, living in the world without losing yourself along the way. Patience, silence, and faith, and everything built with truth becomes unbreakable. The rock in the middle of the sea, living unshakable in a collapsing world. Being the rock in the middle of the sea isn't just resisting the waves, it's choosing to exist consciously amidst disorder. A world so well structured that even the greatest external storms cannot crack its foundation. Stoicism invites us to this inner firmness, not as rigidity, but as emotional maturity. Shaken by the tests, you embrace them as part of your own refinement process. You no longer move to please, to appear, to compete. Success now has a different hue. It's silent, internal, sustained by a sense of purpose that doesn't depend on others' recognition to exist. It comes from the mental organization of someone who no longer confuses urgency with importance, nor movement with direction. The Stoic mind understands that not reacting isn't a mission, it's preservation. That not responding to emotional injustice isn't weakness, it's mastery. Strength is compassionate. It doesn't need to impose anything. It expresses itself with lightness. It doesn't shout, it embraces. Those with power over themselves don't need to dominate anyone. And that's the presence that transforms environments, that calms tensions. Advancing, conquering. It's about remaining, about sustaining what was built with so much effort, about maintaining lucidity even when the world tries to pull you down. The rock doesn't worry about the foam of the waves. This unshakability is discreet. It doesn't seek the spotlight. It manifests in how you walk, how you observe, how you stay silent when you could react. It's the reflection of a mind that no longer wants to win debates, it wants to win itself. Because you're no longer emotionally hijacked by anything or anyone, because you're no longer a hostage to the external, because now there's a ground within you, an intimate altar. Instead of holding on to out of vanity, emotional discipline, stoic virtue, inner silence, all this condenses into a state of being. Now you are a presence that steadies, you are a structure that sustains, you are a voice that guides without shouting. And the most beautiful part is that by becoming a rock, you don't just protect yourself, you become a shelter for others. Without realizing it, you become the one others seek in times of storm. Make an effort for this. Just be. Just sustain what you already are. Just remain whole when everything around fragments. And so ends the cycle of construction. What began as ruin became a foundation. What seemed like disorder revealed direction. Something, but as someone carrying something no one can take away. Because when the collapse comes, and it will, you won't be swept away. You will be the rock in the middle of the sea.